7 years ago, my ex-husband Derek decided he wanted more than just half of our assets. He wanted to destroy me completely, using the one person I loved more than life itself. Our daughter, Emma. He thought he'd won. He thought he was untouchable, that he could use and discard me and even Emma without consequence. But what he didn't realize was that he had just awakened a force he never knew existed within me, a protective fire that would eventually burn down his entire deceitful world. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I'm Patricia. For over 30 years, I worked as a dedicated nurse, pouring my heart and soul into caring for others. Emma and I, through shared trauma and shared healing, have forged a new bond, a healthy adult partnership built on honesty, respect, and unconditional love. That, in the end, became the most satisfying revenge against Derek's failed manipulation. My daughter is strong, independent, and truly free. And so am I. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching. The self-doubt that Derek had so skillfully sown, the constant questioning of my worth as a mother, as a woman, finally began to dissipate. I reclaimed my sense of self-respect, my confidence. The peace that settled over my modest 3-bedroom house was profound, a quiet sanctuary after years of emotional warfare. Derek will likely never understand what he did wrong, never acknowledge the pain he inflicted, and honestly, his understanding is not necessary for our healing. My revenge wasn't about reveling in his downfall. It was about reclaiming our lives, about restoring balance, and about rebuilding the most important relationship in my life, the one with my daughter. Emma, now fully aware of the depth of her father's manipulation, grieved not just for the lost relationship, but for the years she had spent blind, blaming me for her father's failures. She found a quiet strength, an inner resilience I knew she always had but had been suffocated by Derek's influence. She took responsibility for her past choices, not just by cleaning up her legal issues, but by fundamentally changing her life. She found a job at an art therapy center, combining her passion for art with a newfound desire to help others. She started saving, planning for graduate school, forging her own path, independent and self-sufficient. I, too, found healing. In a federal courtroom, the weight of the evidence, including my recorded conversation, the financial documents, and Emma's tearful testimony about his manipulation, was undeniable. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. 8 years. The judge also ordered a restitution payment of $847,000, a symbolic yet significant acknowledgement of the financial damage Derek and his co-conspirators had inflicted. There was no joy in my heart watching him being led away, only a profound sense of quiet justice, a restoration of balance. It was over. In the aftermath, Emma and I continued our therapy with Dr. Chen. It was a long, arduous journey, peeling back layers of narcissistic abuse, processing the profound betrayal, and rebuilding trust that had been shattered. And Sandra Martinez, Jason's mother, Derek's girlfriend, a supposed real estate agent, was arrested too, implicated as a co-conspirator in the financial abuse scheme. The news spread like wildfire through our small community. The charming, untouchable Derek Collins led away in handcuffs. The shockwaves were palpable. The fallout for Derek was swift and absolute. He was charged with multiple counts, including conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse, fraud, and operating an illegal gambling scheme. His flashy downtown loft, his carefully curated image, his entire world crumbled. He lost his reputation, his business, his girlfriend, and eventually, his freedom. She saw how his love was always conditional, always transactional, always a means to an end. The scales had finally fallen from her eyes, and she was ready to fight alongside me. The climax arrived with a calculated precision that Derek, in his arrogance, never saw coming. Richard Patterson initiated a federal investigation into elder financial abuse and illegal gambling operations. The evidence we provided was overwhelming. It wasn't just about Derek anymore. It was about exposing a broader criminal network that targeted vulnerable individuals through their connections. One crisp autumn morning, the call came. Derek had been arrested, not just for a family dispute, but for federal charges. Jason Martinez, the gambling addict who lured Emma, was also apprehended. He'd send Emma condescending texts filled with veiled threats about her needing to be grateful for his past generosity, subtly reinforcing his control. He even tried to worm his way back into my life, calling me under the guise of checking on Emma, fishing for information, probably still planning his next move to financially exploit me. But the Patricia he knew was gone. Each call, each text, each attempt at manipulation just added more fuel to my fire, more resolve to see this through. Emma, meanwhile, was slowly, painfully coming to terms with the truth. She started therapy with Dr. Sarah Chen, a specialist in family trauma and narcissistic abuse, and through those sessions, the full extent of her father's betrayal became horrifyingly clear. He immediately recognized the severity of Derek's actions and the depth of his criminal enterprise. He informed us that not only had Derek been engaged in financial abuse, but his actions also pointed to a broader network, potentially involving illegal gambling operations. The affidavit Emma had unknowingly signed was a clear intent to defraud. Richard worked tirelessly, meticulously compiling all the evidence: the police report from Emma's arrest, the photographs of my financial documents, the signed affidavit, and, most damningly, Linda's audio recording of Derek's confession. While Richard built our case, Derek, completely unaware of the net closing in, escalated his behavior. He continued to act as if he were the benevolent father, despite having abandoned Emma at the police station. He even chuckled as he described how Emma had been so good at getting my financial papers for him, how easy it would be, once I was officially incompetent, to just take over everything. It was all there, on Linda's recording device, his confession to intentional, calculated financial and emotional abuse, a blueprint of his sinister scheme. The satisfaction of hearing his own words, knowing I had him, was immense, but it was dwarfed by the profound disgust I felt for the man I had once married. Armed with this irrefutable evidence, Emma and I immediately sought legal counsel. We found Richard Patterson, an attorney specializing in elder law and financial fraud. He listened intently, his expression growing grimmer with each detail. Derek, ever the narcissist, began to preen, subtly taking credit for Emma's artistic spirit while deflecting any blame for her current predicament. I then, with a trembling voice, brought up Jason Martinez, asking how Emma had even met him. That's when he let his guard down. He began to explain, with a chilling lack of remorse, how he'd been talking to Jason about opportunities. He knew about Jason's gambling habit, his need for money. He openly admitted to, quote, suggesting that Jason introduce Emma to the club, knowing full well her susceptibility to indulgence and her lack of financial savvy. He confessed, with a smug grin, that the plan was for Emma to incur debts, to drain my resources, to make her completely dependent on him. I immediately called my sister Linda, a woman whose fierce loyalty I knew I could always count on. I recounted everything: the gambling debt, Derek's abandonment, the photographic evidence, the chilling affidavit. Linda, aghast, suggested we set a trap. She had a small, discreet, digital recorder. We arranged to meet Derek for coffee at a quiet cafe on 5th Street, ostensibly to discuss Emma's situation. I acted distraught, desperate, letting him believe I was still the vulnerable, easily manipulated Patricia he had always known. Linda sat a few tables over, nursing a coffee, the recorder hidden in her purse. I started by expressing my concern for Emma, feigning helplessness. It was a statement, carefully worded, detailing my increasing forgetfulness, my irrational spending habits, my episodes of emotional instability. It was a sworn statement supporting a legal case to declare me mentally incompetent. Derek, through Emma, had been gathering information to seize control of all my assets, to take my home, my savings, everything I had worked for my entire life. He hadn't just wanted half in the divorce, he wanted it all. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about spite. This was about criminal intent, orchestrated with my own daughter as an unwitting accomplice. My heart ached for Emma, for the way she had been so cruelly manipulated, but a steel resolve hardened within me. I was done being a victim. It was time to fight back. Buried beneath some art supplies, I found a small, discreet envelope. Inside were dozens of photos, not of friends or art, but of my personal financial documents, my mortgage statements, my investment portfolio summaries, even a copy of my health insurance policy. My blood ran cold. Emma, my own daughter, had been systematically photographing my confidential financial information for years, unknowingly providing it to Derek. He hadn't just been undermining me emotionally, he had been conducting full-blown financial surveillance. Then came the knockout blow. Tucked into an old-school folder, I found a legal document, an affidavit bearing Emma's signature. I read it with trembling hands. As I navigated the bureaucracy of the police station, dealing with Emma's very real legal trouble, something else felt wrong. Emma, confused and scared, let slip details that raised immediate red flags. She mentioned how her dad's new girlfriend's son, Jason Martinez, a guy with a known gambling addiction and a cocaine problem, had been the one to introduce her to this exclusive club. Jason, I knew, was a trust fund kid, always looking for a quick thrill, and now I knew, a quick score. The pieces started to click into place, but the full horror of Derek's plan was still unfolding. The first truly horrifying discovery came when I was cleaning out some old boxes in Emma's room after she finally moved back home, chastened and miserable. My heart sank, a sickening blend of fear for Emma and a grim, morbid vindication. I immediately called Derek, expecting his usual charming bravado. Instead, his voice was clipped, devoid of any concern. "Patricia," he said, "I simply can't get involved. It could damage my business reputation." My jaw dropped. The fun parent, the one who bought her designer clothes and promised her the moon, completely abandoned her in her moment of crisis. That was the moment Emma's illusion of her father began to shatter, and it was the moment my transformation truly began. The years of quiet hurt solidified into a cold, hard resolve. I would fix this, not just for Emma, but for myself. I would find out why this happened, and I would make sure no one ever used my daughter or me again. She unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse, calling me controlling, stingy, unsupportive, all the things Derek had likely subtly implanted in her mind for years. She stormed out, slamming the door, leaving me in stunned silence, feeling utterly defeated. Then, at 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. It was Emma, her voice slurred, desperate. She was stuck, she said, at some private club downtown, owing $3,000 for a misunderstanding. She promised, in a rush of words, that Derek might give her the money to repay me if I just sent it now. In that moment, something inside me snapped. 7 years of being undermined. 7 years of silently bearing every financial burden, every emotional blow, every rejection from my own daughter, while Derek paraded around as the hero. It was enough. My voice, usually soft, was cold, steady. "Emma," I said, "you need $3,000 at 3 in the morning from a private club? Call your father." I hung up. The silence after that click was deafening, but it was also the first breath of fresh air I'd taken in years. I had no idea then that this single act of self-preservation would be the match that lit the fuse on an explosive revelation, one that would unravel years of calculated, insidious betrayal. That refusal changed everything. The next morning, I got a call, not from Emma, but from Officer Martinez at the local precinct. Emma had been picked up not just for a $3,000 debt, but for a staggering $3,200 gambling debt at an unregistered illegal gaming establishment. She resented me for my boundaries, for my financial prudence, for making her confront the real world. She once, in a fit of teenage angst that still stings, even screamed that she loved Derek more, a barb that twisted in my heart for years. The tension simmered, a constant, low-level thrum of resentment and manipulation, but it all came to a head one night. Emma, then 25, had been living at home, claiming she was finding herself after her art history degree, which mostly involved late nights and avoiding any actual employment. I was trying to gently nudge her towards responsibility, suggesting she contribute a mere $50 for groceries, a paltry sum for a grown woman. That's when the dam broke. He'd take Emma on lavish shopping sprees for designer clothes, encourage her vague artistic dreams with no regard for practicality, and fill her head with fantasies of an easy life, all while conveniently forgetting to contribute a dime to her actual upbringing or future. I, on the other hand, was the villain. I was the one setting rules, reminding her about curfews, and most importantly, the one shouldering every single financial burden. I even took out a second mortgage on my house, the house I still lived in, and worked tirelessly to maintain, just to cover Emma's college expenses Derek had promised, with a wink and a charm, to cover. His guilt money meant Emma never had to learn the value of a dollar, never had to face a consequence. My life wasn't flashy. It was built on hard work, responsibility, and the quiet satisfaction of providing for my family. Our modest 3-bedroom house, the one I'd put so much of myself into, was more than just a home. It was a symbol of my stability, my sacrifices. When Derek and I divorced 7 years ago, he painted me as the villain, claiming my grounded nature suffocated his artistic dreams. The truth was, I was the one paying the bills, managing the household, and raising our daughter Emma, while Derek flitted from one get-rich-quick scheme to another, always promising big, always delivering nothing but debt. After the divorce, Derek, predictably, became the, quote, fun parent.